Have you ever noticed an older loved one slowly changing? Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly. So quietly that at first you almost doubt yourself. A softer voice than before. Longer pauses before they answer. Moments where they seem to drift, not away from you, but inward. They may smile less, speak less, or lose interest in things they once loved deeply. Hobbies fade, conversations shorten, and activities that once brought excitement now feel like too much effort. At first, we tell ourselves it's nothing serious. We say, it's just aging. They're tired. Everyone slows down eventually. And yes, aging does change the body, but there is something else happening too. Something quieter, deeper, and often misunderstood. Doctors and longtime caregivers often say the same thing. The body whispers before it stops speaking. And in the final year of life, those whispers become more noticeable, if we're willing to listen. These whispers don't shout. They don't demand attention. They appear as subtle shifts, physical, emotional, and spiritual changes that are easy to overlook in a busy world. Sometimes restlessness fades and is replaced by a strange calm, a stillness that feels unfamiliar but not frightening. It's as if the constant need to do, to fix, to worry, slowly loosens its grip. And for family members watching from the outside, this can feel confusing. We want to help. We want to encourage. We want them to be who they used to be. But what if this stage isn't about pushing forward? What if it's about softening? This video is not meant to create fear. It's not meant to predict timelines or outcomes. It's meant to bring understanding, compassion, and a deeper sense of peace. Because when we recognize these changes for what they are, something important happens. We stop pushing them to stay strong. We stop urging them to be more active. We stop correcting their silence. And instead, we start loving more deeply. We listen more. We sit longer. We speak more gently. In this video, we'll explore 8 gentle but powerful signs that many seniors show during their last year of life. These signs are not rules. They don't appear the same way in everyone, but they are common enough that caregivers across cultures recognize them, often only after they've lived through the experience. As we move through them, you may find yourself thinking of someone you love. You may recognize behaviors you've seen before, but never truly understood. And that understanding can change everything. If you have an aging parent, a spouse, a grandparent, or a close friend, I invite you to stay with me until the end. Not because you need all the answers, but because sometimes simply understanding what's happening allows us to replace fear with tenderness. It helps us trade frustration for patience and worry for presence. Because at this stage of life, presence matters more than explanations. So take a breath, slow down with me, and let's begin.
Sign 1. Sleeping more than usual. One of the earliest and most misunderstood signs is sleeping more than usual. It often begins quietly. You may notice your father drifting off in the middle of a conversation, his words slow, his eyes soften, and suddenly he's resting. Or perhaps it's your mother sitting peacefully in her chair. Her eyes close again and again throughout the day, not out of boredom, but out of a deep, undeniable need for rest. At first, families worry. They wonder if something is wrong. They assume it's exhaustion or loneliness or even depression. But medically, something else is happening. This kind of sleep is not laziness. It's not giving up. It's the body conserving energy. As the body ages and organs begin working less efficiently, energy becomes precious. The heart works harder. The lungs breathe more slowly. The body begins to turn inward. It no longer spends energy on long conversations, constant movement, or stimulation from the outside world. Instead, it saves strength for what matters most: breathing, circulation, and maintaining balance. Sleep becomes a place of restoration, a safe, quiet space where the body can simply be. During this time, you may notice a sense of stillness. They're present, but gently retreating from the world. They may wake, smile, and drift back again, as if the noise of life has become too loud and rest has become more meaningful than words. Some caregivers describe this stage as preparation, not in a frightening way, but in a natural, peaceful one, a quiet loosening of life's grip. I once knew a man named Robert. When he turned 84, something changed. He began sleeping nearly 14 hours a day, sometimes more. His family worried deeply at first. They asked doctors, they encouraged activity, they tried to keep him engaged, but Robert wasn't sad, he wasn't lost. One day, when his daughter gently asked if he was okay, he smiled and said something she never forgot. "I feel closer to peace when my eyes are closed." That sentence changed everything. His family stopped resisting his rest. They stopped waking him unnecessarily. They stopped filling the room with noise. Instead, they adjusted. They spoke more softly. They sat beside him quietly. They held his hand. And over time, they realized something important. His sleep wasn't an escape, it was acceptance. If you see this happening with someone you love, try not to fight it. Don't force them to stay awake. Don't insist on constant interaction. Create calm. Lower the lights. Reduce noise. Speak gently when they're awake. Offer your presence more than your questions. At this stage, rest is not a sign of weakness. It's wisdom written into the body, a natural response to a life that is slowly, peacefully turning inward. And when we honor that rest, we offer comfort, not just to the body, but to the soul.
Sign 2. Loss of appetite and changes in taste. Another sign often reveals itself at the dinner table. It's subtle at first. Foods that once brought comfort and joy, warm soup, homemade pie, even a simple cup of coffee, begin to lose their appeal. A senior who once asked for seconds may now take only a few bites, or sometimes none at all. Plates return to the kitchen untouched. Cups remain half full. And for families watching, this can be deeply unsettling. We worry they're not getting enough strength. We fear they're fading too quickly. We wonder if something more can be done. But this change doesn't cause decline. It reflects it. As the body naturally slows, digestion slows with it. The stomach empties more slowly. The need for calories quietly fades. Hunger isn't ignored. It simply no longer arrives the way it once did. At this stage of life, the body no longer asks for fuel to build or grow. It asks only for enough to remain comfortable. This can be especially painful for families because feeding someone is one of the oldest expressions of love. We cook, we offer, we encourage. Food becomes care. Food becomes hope. So when they stop eating, it can feel personal, like rejection. But it isn't. I once knew a woman named Alice. She was 87 years old, gentle, warm, and always grateful. Every evening, her daughter baked apple cobbler. The scent filled the house with memory and love. Alice would smile, take one small spoonful, pause, and then quietly say, "It tastes too strong now." Her daughter was heartbroken at first, but over time she realized something important. Alice wasn't ungrateful. She wasn't giving up. Her body had shifted. Her senses had softened, and the world, flavors, smells, even hunger,
was no longer needed in the same way. At this stage of life, forcing food can cause discomfort. It can lead to nausea, bloating, restlessness. What feels like care to us may feel like pressure to them. Instead, offer gently. Soft soups, warm broth, a sip of juice, or simply water when they ask for it. Let them lead. Sometimes even the act of holding a warm cup is enough, because what nourishes most now isn't calories, it's presence. Sitting beside them, sharing quiet, honoring their body's wisdom. Love doesn't disappear when the appetite does. It simply changes form. And when we understand that, we replace worry with compassion and fear with peace. If this resonates with you, comment number 2 below, so I know you're here and not walking this journey alone. Sign 3. Withdrawing from people and conversation. Many families notice this sign, but often misunderstand it. A loved one who once enjoyed talking begins to grow quiet. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel shorter. Answers become brief. Pauses stretch longer than words. The laughter that once filled the room slowly gives way to silence. And when this happens, families often worry. They wonder if something is wrong. They fear loneliness. They assume sadness. But most of the time, this isn't sadness at all. It's a natural turning inward. As life nears its later chapters, many seniors instinctively begin to detach from the noise of the outside world. The need to explain, to entertain, to stay engaged slowly fades. Instead, they turn their attention inward. They reflect. They remember. They reconcile. Memories surface quietly, some joyful, some painful, some unfinished. This inner work doesn't require conversation. It requires stillness. At this stage, silence becomes more meaningful than words. I once knew a man named Harold. He was 82 years old, sharp-minded and gentle in spirit. One afternoon, after sitting quietly for a long time, he looked up and said something simple but profound. "I've said everything I needed to say." There was no sadness in his voice, no regret, only peace. Harold wasn't lonely, he was complete. For those watching from the outside, this withdrawal can feel personal. We wonder if they're pulling away from us, if we've said something wrong, if we should try harder to engage them. But when someone withdraws during this stage of life, it's rarely about rejection. It's about completion. They are gathering themselves, letting go of what no longer needs to be carried. And when we respect that process, something beautiful happens. We stop filling the silence with noise. We stop forcing conversation. Instead, we sit beside them. We offer our presence without expectation, because silence isn't emptiness, it's sacred space. A space where memories settle, where peace deepens, where love exists without words. If someone you love is growing quieter, let that be okay. Hold their hand, sit nearby, breathe together. Sometimes the deepest connection happens in silence. And sometimes the most loving thing we can say is nothing at all.
Sign 4. Changes in breathing and body temperature. Another sign that often brings concern and sometimes fear is a change in breathing. Families notice it quietly at first. Breaths become slower, deeper, less predictable. There may be long pauses between breaths, followed by a sudden deep exhale. Sometimes the rhythm feels unfamiliar, almost unsettling. And if you've never witnessed this before, it can be frightening. But these changes are not a sign of suffering. They are part of the body's natural slowing. As the body moves into its later stages, it no longer maintains the steady patterns it once did. Breathing is no longer driven by effort or control. It becomes instinctual. The body takes what it needs and releases the rest. Along with changes in breathing, you may notice changes in body temperature. Hands and feet may feel cool to the touch. Legs may feel colder than the rest of the body. Skin tone may shift slightly, becoming paler or mottled. This can alarm families, but medically, this too has a simple explanation. The body is redirecting blood flow and warmth toward the most vital organs, the heart, the lungs, the brain. It's not shutting down, it's prioritizing. The body knows where its energy is needed most, and it adjusts accordingly. This doesn't mean the person is in pain. Often they are more comfortable than they appear. I once met a woman named Grace during hospice care. She was calm, alert, and deeply reflective. One afternoon, as her breathing slowed and softened, she quietly said, "It feels like my breath is deciding for me now." There was no fear in her voice, only acceptance. Grace understood what many families struggle to grasp, that the body has its own wisdom. It knows how to ease itself forward. When you notice these changes, there is nothing you need to fix. You don't need to correct the breathing. You don't need to panic at the pauses. Instead, focus on comfort. Keep the room warm. Offer a soft blanket. Reduce noise and bright lights. Speak gently, even if they don't respond. Hearing is often the last sense to fade. And perhaps most importantly, hold their hand. Even if they don't squeeze back, even if their eyes remain closed. Touch still matters. Your presence matters more than you know. In these quiet moments, reassurance doesn't come from explanations. It comes from calm energy, from familiarity, from love that says, "You're not alone." And sometimes, simply sitting there, breathing alongside them, is the most powerful comfort you can give.
Sign 5. Emotional shifts and deep calm. One of the most profound changes at this stage of life isn't physical at all. It's emotional. Families often notice that long-held worries begin to fade. Concerns that once felt urgent no longer seem important. Arguments lose their weight. Old grudges quietly fall away. Things that once caused stress, money, schedules, unfinished plans, simply stop mattering. In their place, something unexpected appears. Calm. A deep, steady calm that can feel surprising to witness. Some seniors begin speaking more about their childhood, about early memories, about people and places long gone. Others say things that catch us off guard. Phrases like, "I'm ready to go home," or "I think I've done what I came to do." To families, these words can sound frightening, but they are not words of despair. They are words of completion. They reflect a sense of wholeness, of a life reviewed and accepted. I once knew a man named Gerald. He was thoughtful, sharp, and deeply reflective. One afternoon, sitting quietly by a window, he said something simple but powerful. "I've stopped fighting time." There was relief in his voice, not sadness. Gerald wasn't giving up. He was letting go. And when someone reaches this state, the peace they carry can be contagious. Rooms feel quieter. Moments feel slower. Even family members begin to breathe differently around them. At this stage, listening becomes more important than correcting. There's no need to argue details, no need to pull them back into the present. Their words may not always make logical sense, but they carry meaning. Meaning meant not just for you,
but for themselves. So listen more, correct less, allow their thoughts to arrive and pass without interruption. Because in these moments, they are often doing deep inner work, finding peace, closing emotional chapters, and resting in acceptance. And when we honor that calm, we give them the freedom to remain there. If you're still watching, comment number 5 below, so I know you're walking this path with me. Sign 6. Eating less and drinking less. As the body continues to slow, appetite often fades even more. Not just eating less, but drinking less too. Sips replace glasses, bites replace meals. For families, this can be one of the hardest changes to accept. We associate food and water with life itself, with care, with survival. So when someone we love begins to take less of both, fear quickly follows. But this is not starvation. It's nature easing the body into rest. At this stage, the body no longer processes food and fluids the way it once did. Digestion becomes inefficient. Fluids can build up. Swelling, nausea, and discomfort may increase if intake is forced. Ironically, eating and drinking less can actually reduce pain. It can ease pressure on the organs. It can lessen congestion in the lungs. It can bring more comfort, not less. This shift is the body's quiet wisdom at work. I once knew a woman who said something unforgettable to her daughter. Her daughter was trying gently but persistently to encourage her to eat. Finally, the woman smiled and said, "You fed me for 80 years. Now I'm full." There was gratitude in her voice, not sadness. She passed peacefully just weeks later. Her daughter later said that sentence freed her of guilt. It helped her understand that love isn't measured in how much someone eats, but in how safe and cared for they feel. At this stage, offering comfort matters more than insisting. Offer a sip when they ask, moisten their lips, keep their mouth comfortable, but let their body lead. Presence replaces portions. Gentleness replaces goals. Sit with them, speak softly, reassure them with your tone, your touch, your calm. Because nourishment now comes from something deeper, from love that says, you don't have to do anything, you are enough. And when we respect that process, we give them the greatest gift of all, peace.
Sign 7. Increased sleep and shifting awareness. As time moves forward, sleep often becomes deeper and longer. Rest is no longer something they do. It becomes where they live. They may sleep through most of the day, waking only briefly, then drifting back again, as if carried by something gentle and unseen. During this time, awareness can begin to shift. Dreams may blend with memory, past and present soften into one. They may speak to people who have already passed, call out familiar names, smile at someone you cannot see. For families, this can be confusing. We worry about confusion. We fear disorientation. But this is not confusion. It's transition. At this stage, the mind is no longer anchored tightly to the present moment. It begins to move freely between memory, imagination, and something deeper. Many people describe these moments as meaningful rather than frightening. I once met a man who said something simple to his daughter. As he rested with his eyes closed, he smiled and whispered, "I've been dreaming of home." He didn't explain where home was. He didn't need to. There was peace in his voice. When this happens, let their rest be sacred. Avoid shaking them awake unnecessarily. Lower the lights, reduce noise. Play soft music if it feels comforting. Familiar songs, gentle melodies. Speak gently.
even if you're not sure they hear you, because hearing is often the last sense to fade. And sometimes connection doesn't need words. A calm presence, a familiar voice, a hand resting quietly in theirs. These are the things that carry meaning now. They are not drifting away from you. They are simply moving towards something else, slowly, peacefully, in their own time. And when we honor that journey, we offer comfort not just to them, but to ourselves.
Sign 8. A sudden burst of energy. One of the most surprising and often misunderstood signs is a sudden return of energy. It can happen without warning. A person who has been quiet and withdrawn may suddenly become alert. They may speak more clearly, sit up in bed, ask for food, or even laugh. For families, this moment can feel confusing. Hope rises, relief rushes in. We think they're getting better. But medically, this surge has a different meaning. This is often the body's final release of energy, a last gathering of strength, a closing moment of clarity, not meant to reverse the journey, but to complete it. Many caregivers describe this as a gift, a final chance to connect, to speak, to say what matters. I once witnessed this with a woman named Eleanor. She had been sleeping quietly for days. Then one morning she opened her eyes, sat up, and looked toward the window. Sunlight filled the room. She smiled and said, "What a beautiful day to go home." There was no fear in her voice, only certainty. She passed peacefully the next night. Moments like these are not meant to be questioned. They are not false hope. They are closure. If you witness this surge, be present. Put down your phone, pause the questions, forget the explanations. Sit close, hold their hand, share the moment fully. Say what needs to be said, or say nothing at all. Because these moments don't come to extend time, they come to complete it. And when we meet them with love instead of fear, they become memories filled with peace, not regret. If this touched you, comment number 8 below, so I know you felt it too.
Death rarely arrives suddenly. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or noise. Instead, it comes quietly, through small changes, subtle shifts that often go unnoticed until one day they become impossible to ignore. These signs we've talked about, they aren't curses or warnings. They're invitations. Invitations to love more deeply, to slow down, to be fully present. In these final chapters, what matters most is not doing more, it's simply being. Sit beside them, hold their hand, speak softly, tell them you love them, thank them for their life, listen without rushing. Dying isn't the opposite of living, it's a part of it, a natural, sacred part. And awareness of this process, this gentle unfolding, doesn't create fear, it creates grace. Grace for them, grace for you, grace for the moments you share. Thank you for being here today, for opening your heart to understanding, for walking this tender path with care. If this video touched you or helped you see things more clearly, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who might need it. And before you go, please share one thing you learned in the comments below. Your experience matters, your story matters, and your presence here means more than you know. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, be gentle with yourself and those you love.